my biggest thing has always been you've got to create these places to look like where they eat, sleep, and play, right?
Sure.
And when we go on vacation, Branson, when you go on vacation, you're probably looking for a personalized experience. They know you before you get into place, right? And so the focus really needs to be on operations.
Beyond the Blueprint podcast, welcome back for season 2. We are here with our first guest, Joel George. I'm happy to have you on, man.
Absolutely.
Congrats on 40 under 40. It's a big accomplishment.
Congrats
man.
to you too, man, friend.
Thank you.
Like, this is great. We're sharing the stage a little bit today.
That's right.
That's great.
That's
man.
right. So we're going to jump into some conversation. So if you saw season 1, you got to know a lot of really great folks here in the commercial real estate and development industry, especially here in Orlando. So season 2, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to jump into some other things as well. So I want to introduce you to Joel and let him kick it off and let people know who you are, man.
Love it. Well, congratulations on this, first and foremost. This is amazing. I love this. I'm trying to get the word out in terms of visibility. And so my name is Joel George. I've been with AdventHealth for about 12 and a half years, working with them in the healthcare organization. And first and foremost, I'm a dad, right? And so I got 2 kids. I have an 8 and 11-year-old. Been married for about 12 years. So it's been a fun journey. As a young business kind of executive, really kind of going up in the ranks, and then also really compartmentalizing my time to make sure I spend that intentional time with the kids.
It's not an easy thing to do.
Tough. I'll tell you that. But I think I found a really cool balance between just being a genuine and in what you do and really focusing on a craft, right? And so just a little bit about my story. I started off actually as a registered nurse. I was a registered nurse in the clinical side for about 4 years at AdventHealth, which is another organization, healthcare organization, but quickly realized, being in the emergency room, seeing everything that was coming through, I really had this vision for healthcare to be transformed into something that was more hospitality focused. Sure. Changing environments, when you look at ER settings and hospitals, it's very transactional in terms of like the interactions you have with patients. And I had this vision that, why are we so focused on making this so transactional? How can we transform these environments to look more like hospitality? And you look at the hospitality industry, let's just take that for an example, right? $7.4 trillion gets spent in the hospitality industry. That's the global marketing or the global market for hospitality. True. And then 4.3 of that, right? 4.3 of not that, but 4.3 of the spend in healthcare is all hospital related, right? Sure. And I came to this conjunction, or not conjunction, but just kind of this place where I was really looking at the crossroads of what does hospitality look like in healthcare. And let's learn from luxury brands. Let's learn from the people that do it really well. Right. Your favorite hotel, your favorite restaurant, right. How personalized they are. And I was given the opportunity to actually be a director of radiology at Celebration Hospital after a little bit of my tenure as a registered nurse. And I just knew I didn't want to be bedside for a long time, and taking care of patients is my heart. I love that. It's amazing. But I also knew that I was more of an entrepreneur on the business side of things, right? And I wanted to move that forward. And so I was given an opportunity to become director of radiology at Celebration, AdventHealth Celebration. And the organization has been really awesome in developing and growing their leaders. And while I was there, I had this kind of, I was in a season of my life where I was just trying to figure out, how do you transform places? How do you make sure these places are places of healing? And so I worked with the leaders on that side, and we had this imaging department there that was a beachside theme, a seaside theme, which had the smells of the ocean. When you walked in, we had a sandcastle on top of the MRI machine to make sure that people can get their mind off of their exam that they're having when they're coming in, the most vulnerable times, right? And so the whole goal really was to really get patients' minds off of the exams that they're coming in. And you can imagine people come in with cancer diagnosis and they leave trying to figure out treatment options for those things. And so how could we impact that on the front end? And so at that time, I was able to actually embed some technology into the space, putting MRI goggles into MRI machines so people can watch movies while they're getting their MRI done or CT done, and really enhance that beachside environment.
Sure.
And we saw that our sedation rates, which are sedation that patients basically receive Versed and fentanyl, which put them out while they're getting exams done, those plummeted about 7.5% just tweaks in the environment. So I knew from that moment on, I was like, there's something here,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
In terms of hospitality and healthcare, how do you change the patient experience?
So would you say when we talk about hospitality and changing that experience, essentially it's embodying a positive emotion as a lot of
That's
these
right.
clients walk in.
That's right.
So how has like what's been the major focus as that transition has happened in your experience at least? And like what has been like one of the key indicators that has switched that focus? Is it, personnel, how people greet you? Is it environment?
Yeah.
What kind of things would you focus on?
I love that question. A lot of times when I think about buildings and how Orlando is a very focused, construction focused kind of area, right? In healthcare, we tend to build things very, very sterile and dark and dreary in terms of settings. And so my biggest thing has always been you've got to create these places to look like where they eat, sleep, and play, right?
Sure.
And when we go on vacation, Branson, when you go on vacation, you're probably looking for a personalized experience. They know you before you get
Yeah.
in the place, right? And so the focus really needs to be on operations. To me, that's what truly sets you apart from a patient experience standpoint.
Right.
You can build the most beautiful building, the most technologically focused building, but it's the operations, the people, and how you train them that matter, right?
Right.
In terms of luxury brands and what's the Ritz Carlton doing? What's Four Seasons doing? How do they know my name before I even walk in the door?
Right.
How do they know that my favorite chocolate is upstairs in my room before waiting for me before I get there? Those are those things that I think you can get ahead of in healthcare early and really focus on to make a huge difference in experience. And then you truly create a lifetime partnership with these people.
Sure.
Right? In many ways, I have a lifetime partnership to Amazon Prime. I don't know about you.
Right. Once a week.
Once a week. It's like, it's constant, right? And so I'm sure my wife has a package probably waiting at the door right now. But no, that's what we're looking for. And I think that's where consumers are looking for is how do you know me before I walk in the door?
Sure. Are you ready to go beyond the blueprint? Introducing Nexus, the ultimate game changer for commercial real estate and development professionals. Nexus revolutionizes how deals are made and projects come to life. With our cutting-edge SaaS platform, we're revolutionizing the built environment, making your workflow seamless. Vendors gain instant access to opportunities tailored to their needs, while organizations find consultants, vendors, and contractors with a click of a button. Our all-in-one mapping and deal-making interface powers municipalities and site selectors to shape the future of cities nationwide. Join Nexus today and be a part of the future of commercial real estate and construction. Visit our website now to pre-register and get immediate access to what is to come. Visit gonexus.us. The power to transform your project starts here. So, the hospitality industry and then the healthcare industry are two very old industries, right? Yeah. And they've been very siloed for a long time.
Sure.
So I guess going backwards, as Joel, the young kid,
yeah,
how did you get into healthcare and like what was that draw? And then how did that slowly transition into like, hey, I want people to feel good even though they don't feel good, right?
Yeah. My early childhood into getting into healthcare was really focused on because I had a lot of family members that were in healthcare too. Sure. As well. So my mother is a nurse. My dad is not in anything healthcare related. He's an insurance agent. He was an insurance agent, now retired. Mom is about to retire probably in a couple of years. So kudos to my parents on that one. But it really shaped that because for me, my grandmother and my grandparents, all of them, who are no longer with us right now, but they had a lot of healthcare comorbidities, right? They had a lot of things that they had to deal with. And so I would see this back and forth all the time in terms of how they had to deal with a hospital system and a healthcare system. And I was just telling myself, and from that moment, I was like, there's got to be a fix to this. There's got to be why is it that we have to call constantly to get a hold of someone?
Yeah.
Why is it that nobody's navigating us through this whole healthcare journey? And so that's where the spark really hit for me. And it
Sure.
was that moment where I was like, okay, I think this is my lane. I think this is what I want to focus on.
So, when we had coffee the other day, you told me that you'd been to almost every
Yeah.
hotel in the
Yeah.
country. So, what was that experience like? Was that, strictly research and development, or was that
100%.
fun? Yeah. Okay.
100%. So, if you know me, my kids, I have an 8 and an 11-year-old, two beautiful girls, and they're into so many different things. And my wife and I, we kind of made a vow to ourselves that we're just going to make sure that they can live life to the fullest and
Sure.
experience things. And so we do a lot of staycations, right? Around Orlando, we've been to so many different hotels. And that for me, to me, luxury and concierge is that's where it sits.
Right.
And so why not bring that into a healthcare experience, right? So when I go to, my wife will tell you, when I go to restaurants, I'm always looking around. I'm like, how is this designed this way? And how do
Sure.
we bring this into a healthcare environment too as well? So that's kind of my joy comes from that for sure.
Do you have any particular stays, and we don't have to plug a
Yeah.
hotel, but
Yeah.
that you were like, man, this team like killed it. Like this is exactly what
Yeah.
we want to do.
So I'm gonna say this. So I recently got a chance about 4 months ago. My brother got married in Dubai, and I'll just say Dubai. How
Yeah,
about
right.
that? So we got married in Dubai, and it was incredible. Like the personalization, the way that they take care of you, the way that they know you. I stayed at a place over there in the Jumeirah Beach area, and it was incredible. The way that they just the attention to detail, the focus on making sure that your whole stay was taken care of, your family was okay. And the great thing was that they focused so much on the kids, right?
Really?
They focused on, they know the way to your heartstrings is your kids,
Absolutely.
right? So they focused on making sure the kids were fine. And so I would say that was probably the best experience I've ever had.
So I'm a fly on the wall. Walk me through that experience. You
Yeah.
show up, and then what?
You show up and you've got what, like every single Mercedes at the front,
Yeah.
in the front, first and foremost, just because that's Dubai, right? It's like every single car that you can imagine. But there is somebody that comes out there, takes your luggage, and is walking you through even the registration process, right? Many times we walk into hotels and you have to go to that front desk.
Right.
You have a personalized butler literally taking you and registering you and getting you all squared away, getting your night stay, adding a few things that are complimentary to as well. While you're sitting there, your kids are eating like whatever snacks they have
Yeah.
in the lobby,
Right.
and there's people actually giving it to them too as well. Like,
Right.
don't worry, your kids are fine. Just
We'll take care of you. Take care of this.
and then you get into, they drive you to your little villa and your hotel area. And so after that, it's like you just explore the whole area. It's just everybody's just so friendly, right? And like we talked about, it starts with operations.
Sure.
It starts with the people that you hire. It starts with the training that they receive. So I would say that's been kind of near and dear to my heart for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like it, and I've always said, especially today, there's a ton of industries. I'm in construction. You are, as well, and there's all these industries that move so fast, and historically have moved so fast, and it's always been, what's next? We got to do this. We got to pump this out quick. We've got to, be under budget. We've got to do everything. And I think that what I've seen is here, especially in our generation, people are like, there's got to be something different. We've got to feel actually, because as humans, we have a desire to, to feel valued and wanted and understood and heard. And it seems like, I mean, if you talk about, I have a lot of guys on here that are like, we only buy from small businesses,
Yeah.
right? And there's a reason for that, is because you go to a small business, they know you, they know what you like, what you don't like, that they make you feel like you're a part of them in a way. And so it's interesting that you've kind of positioned that healthcare space into doing that, even though, Advent's not a small mom and pop shop, you've had an ability to take that personalized feeling that people are wanting and desiring into that healthcare space.
Yeah, and I've gotten many opportunities in the clinical and the operations side, but I would say what I'm doing now is probably my favorite thing. And so I currently serve as executive director of retail services for AdventHealth, and specifically design, conceptualization, and strategy for the health parks for Advent. Mm-hmm. And what they are is basically a one-stop shop, 36,000 square foot building that has everything you can want in a healthcare setting, almost like a mall of healthcare, basically. Sure. But the differentiator there is that we have access that's seven days a week, open after hours, so that the people that can't get things done for healthcare during their work time gets things done afterwards. And then also, I took it kind of a step further, like we talked about, and really brought in consumer experience and really training our team to what does that look like from a luxury standpoint and concierge standpoint, because we know the future of healthcare is going to be that. It's going to be, they're going to have so many different choices, but that lifetime partnership is what matters, right?
Right. Today's episode is brought to you by Bryce Knuth of Insurance Office of America. As a contractor or real estate owner in Florida, you've likely experienced the impact of rising insurance premiums year after year. With the challenging insurance marketplace, having a specialist who focuses on your industry is critical now more than ever before. If you'd like a second set of eyes on your current insurance program or don't have a relationship with your current broker, please contact Bryce Knuth at 407-697-6944 via call or text, or email bryce.knuth@ioausa.com. Don't let rising insurance costs catch you off guard. Reach out to Bryce today. Have you received any pushback as you because you're kind of going into uncharted territories a little bit, right? Which, kudos to you, but have you seen any pushback? Because, we go into uncharted territories all the time and, try to do things that are different, especially our generation, trying to shake up, the older kind of norms. Have you received any pushback? And if there is, what is it?
No, I don't think I've received any pushback, because at the end of the day, I'm really focused on that one patient, right?
Sure.
If you can change one person's experience for the better, word of mouth goes so much. Yeah. So it goes so many different places. It goes in construction, it's the same thing. It's really the relationships that you build, right? The moment that you change one person's perspective on healthcare, it starts to move. Sure. And so I would say it's a downstream of impact.
Right. So have you just focused one patient at a time?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really what it's been. It's been that, and I would even go about saying this too as well. There's this rule that's kind of a statistical rule. It's called the peak end rule, mm-hmm. right? People only remember experiences at the peak of where they are in that experience and at the end, right? And so let's just take, for example, getting into a restaurant. The peak is getting into the restaurant, getting seated. Sure. Now you're excited. You're excited to experience. And then your experience and your memory is going to be about the end of that experience, right, too, as well. So I really try to help make sure our team focuses on first impressions and the impression at the end too as well, right, because that's what's really truly going to create a lifetime partnership.
So how did you gain your experience and knowledge into this operational role? Because it seems like, obviously we call it the people business, right, is the most important component, and you've got a level of expertise and intricacies that you really focus on. How did that? Is that something that you've always just been really good with people, or is it something that you kind of had to learn?
Yeah, my culture, the Indian culture, is really about family. Yeah. And so this is where I love to talk about this. I can talk about this forever, yeah, but my culture is really about family. And, in many ways, we like to make sure that everyone is taken care of. If you look at a lot of Asian families, let's just take that for example, when you're sitting at a dinner table, you're actually serving others before you serve yourself, yeah, right? You're making sure everybody else is good on that table before you serve yourself. Same thing in business, right? It's the same thing in business development, whatever that is. I tend to say this, and I think this is a big deal in Orlando. No matter where you are, we need to stop thinking about business being so transactional and being more relational. Right. And so I've just really taken to that more from a cultural standpoint of how I was raised. My parents raised us to be very, out there individuals. Be extroverted if you can be, and they also put us in different things. Like I was in music as a young kid. I was a worship leader. I've been a worship leader for years at my
You play
church.
the guitar
So
too,
play the
right?
guitar.
Yeah, there
Yep.
you go.
Play the guitar and sing. And so that side of the world has been awesome and really molding us as me and my brother. My brother and I, we just kind of molded that from an extroversion standpoint and just being out there. So
Yeah. I mean, I think you nailed that. Being a servant leader is part of building those relationships, right? There's a book, Leaders Eat Last,
yep,
right? And so,
yep, it's a great book.
me being from the South, we have similar type of cultural concepts, right? Is like, is everybody okay? Does everybody feel welcome? Do they feel at home? Are they eating? Really, in the South, are they eating
Are
enough?
they eating enough? And if you run out of food, it's
Yeah,
like
it's in the world.
that's the end of the world,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Same thing for
Right.
our culture too, as
Right.
well. So
And so, with that being said, I really do believe that in today's time, as we kind of make this shift, especially in business, it is important that in all generations, but specifically in our generation, as we kind of step up into the next roles of young leaders, that we keep that in mind, right?
absolutely,
That we keep, hey, being a servant leader, servant, having that servant heart as you try to serve others, and what do they need? How can you help? Because we all have the same amount of time every
yep.
day, but we all have different resources, and we can help each other and do things. And especially here in Orlando, I mean, there's so much work to go around. There's so much business to go around, and we're blessed to be in a market that has that.
Yeah, and I relate a lot of that to just how you even parent too, as
Sure.
well, right? Like your kids want all of you when you're with them.
Right.
And I try to practice that so much with them, especially because they're going to be as honest with you as possible,
Sure.
anyways, which is great, right? And you need to embrace those things.
Right.
But I do think that's what it comes down to. It comes down to how do you treat your children? You should treat people the same exact way, no matter what it is in business too, as well.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a hard balance. Especially for me, if I got a lot going on, right? We get into these mind shifts of you got a time block and you
yeah,
got to do this, and
yeah,
you got a meeting from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. You got to be somewhere at 9:30. I had a mentor in my life that he was notoriously known for, if you had like 30 minutes or an hour meeting, it would be 2 hours, right? And his phone would ring. You can never get a hold. If you weren't with him, you could never get a hold to him.
right.
But if you were with him, it felt like you were the only person in the world. And I think that dynamic is healthy to an extent, right? We still have to get things done.
Exactly,
We have
exactly.
deadlines. We have things.
Right.
But I think it is healthy, especially as we build those relationships. Is there anybody instrumental in your life that has helped you do that aside from your family?
Yeah, I would say my grandfather was he was a master connector.
Yeah.
When he passed away, all of that kind of that legacy was really built on just hard work, dedication, worth ethic. And you can see that in my parents too as well. We came from a background where, they come from a country that doesn't have much, and then you come to a land of opportunity where you make the world for yourself, right?
Right.
And the world is your oyster. And so that's probably where I find a lot of my grit and the energy and dedication is really from my ancestors, because I always tell people this, it's grind, execution, and hustle.
Yeah.
Like
You have to
if
have all three.
you got to have all three.
Yeah.
And if you have those three things, no one's ever going to take away your work ethic from you.
Sure. Sure.
And so I truly believe that, and I've had great mentors, I've had great examples in that, in my ancestors. So I give them all the credit. So
That's good.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, having those people in your life is very instrumental in how you grow. And I think your work ethic probably, at least for me, is built off of some of those relationships, right? Like I've had great relationships with people where I want to work as hard as him. Maybe I don't want to work all night, right? I want to spend time with my family.
exactly.
But there is things that you can embody from certain people that are in your life that you see that they're doing really well. I make a analogy a lot of times. It's your life is like a pearl necklace, right? And you don't have the same pearl necklace as me and you or someone else, but you take little pearls of other people's lives, and then eventually you bring your own
Yep.
own necklace apart. You might have people in your life with great mentors that are great at business, but maybe they are not so great in their family, or great in their family but not so great in business, or great in their health but not so good in other aspects. Um, and I think that's okay. People are people, and
People are
people are good
people.
good at certain things. But as you like really strategically try to build your life, if you're a person of aspirations and motivations and desires, and you want more for your life, I've always said that like you've got to take bits and pieces of other people's lives who's kind of been there and done that in those areas, and then make it your own,
And make
kind of.
it your own.
Right.
Absolutely. And I would even say, one, my grandfather is just one inspiration to me. My wife is an incredible inspiration
Yeah.
to me too, as well. She's a mom, and that does not shut off,
Yeah.
right? And so really, I find a lot of my energy off of that too, as well, and saying like, wow, she's working extremely hard, managing schedules, all of that. And our kids have probably the craziest schedules ever.
Sure.
But it's so awesome, and to see that too as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's a great segue for part two. So we're going to get into a little bit of life, a little bit of personal branding and getting yourself out there, and then what the next 5 years looks like for you. So
Perfect.
Beyond the Blueprint podcast has been a great episode with Joel George. I'm your host, Branson Bowen. Make sure you stay tuned for part two. See you soon.